Jan from Fabbulous Paper Emporium, and we are on our very last project for Craftsmas in July, which is kind of sad because it's been a really fun time. It's our first Craftsmas in July, so hopefully you've enjoyed a lot of the projects we've brought, the tutorials, the sale that we have going on at fabulouspaperemporium.com. I've had such a great time, but this project I have been so thoroughly excited about, I can't even. So we're just gonna get right into it. So I don't really have like a sample necessarily to show you. I do have, it's an album first and foremost. So there's that. The base of the album is, I just kind of duplicated one. So this project again is something that I saw on May's site, on May's tutorial YouTube channel. And so she used a pre-made album. So since I don't have those pre-made albums, I made one myself to kind of replicate her base anyways. And so I just used Kraft colored cardstock as well as some chipboard pieces and again some more Kraft colored cardstock on the inside, because it's not just an album. So normally your album would be here, your spine's on your left hand side, you open the book, ooh, it's very pretty. What she has done though is she flipped it this way, so the spine is at the bottom, spine becomes your base. She added this cute little roof topper, and this is going to become a house. So she did it as a gingerbread house, and while I love that idea and it's fantastic and it's sweet, I am going to go a little bit more rustic and do kind of like a cabin. So that is what our final project is. So it is going to take us quite a bit of time. Obviously, I'm going to go through the steps to make the album, to make the roof, and then we go through everything else. We're using, in case you were at all interested or curious about what paper collection we're using for the decor, I just dropped the page on the ground. We are going to be using the wonderful Echo Park, a Lumberjack Christmas. And what kind of steered me in this direction, this is one of my favorite series. They have a little Lumberjack. There is Lumberjack. Well, there's obviously a Lumberjack Christmas, Little Lumberjack, and Let's Lumberjack. Those are the three in this series. They all coordinate together, so it's fantastic. Comes in 12 by 12, comes in 6 by 6. I think we even have some of the ephemera as well, which we'll probably be getting into when we start decorating the inside. And I believe we also have the stamps as I wildly look around my craft room or the studio here. So anyhow, so there is quite a bit to be done with this particular collection. So anyways, but I digress. We're going to get into making the base. So this is what I refer to as the base. Right now we're going to go through the cover. I'm going to get through as much as I possibly can without making the video tutorial too long. So if I have to make it in sections, I will definitely do that. The final one, all I know is that our deadline is Monday. Monday will be probably the finale reveal, kind of everything decorated. So between now and then, we've just got to make sure we've got everything done. That's it. So we're going to start off with the chipboard pieces, and I was not completely prepared. Okay, there we go. Just making sure I've got everything proper. And I did make my notes on the chipboard pieces as well, because, you know, that way I don't have to worry if my notes are MIA. So we are going to use 3 pieces of chipboard. We have got 2 pieces that are 8.5 by 6.5. We have 1 piece that is 2 by 6.5. And so if you are using color chipboard, that's fine. These are the only kinds of chipboard that I have and have in store. So these are what I'm using. And then I'm using some craft paper. And these are, so I have the 2 pieces for the covers. I should note that this album puts together, or created this album using a bit of a different method in terms of wrapping and that kind of thing. We actually do each piece individually, and then we put them together with the spine is going to have some flaps. So if you haven't already watched, I think it's called like a lay flat album or a lay flat method. Excuse me. I can't exactly remember what it's called, but I tried it once and it's different. So I figured different is good sometimes. So we'll give it a go. So your 2 pieces, you're going to need 2 pieces of 10.5 by 8.5. And that's going to be to wrap your large piece of cardstock or chipboard. And then we are going to need 1 piece that is 5 by 8.5. And that is to wrap your spine. And it also will give us the wings or flaps to attach the other 2 pieces. And if you'll see here on the spine here, it looks different than if we were using, I have another tutorial on my channel that goes through how to make a album with, or an album like with chipboard, and the outside looks decidedly different because you use 1 piece. Even if you have to glue or tape them together, it's 1 continuous piece. This one, you can actually see that there is a division. So it kind of looks a little bit more, I think, like a book, possibly. Anyways, I do like the look of this, and it is still really easy to put together. So we will be going through that today. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces and we are going to go through the wrapping. So I'm going to bring this out, my handy dandy score pal that I love so much. And I know I've seen people use spacers. I don't necessarily have spacers. Easy to make. If you've got leftover chipboard, just use that. I know that there's like fancy acrylic or fiberglass, not fiberglass, maybe it's fiberglass, I don't know. Anyways, pieces where, you know, it's almost like a ruler, so which you can absolutely buy. I'm sure they are very durable. I'm not 100% sure because I've never purchased them, but if anything, if I'm making some, I probably will make them with the leftover chipboard that I have. And the rule of thumb is that if you lay generally speaking, your piece of cardstock is going to be about 1 inch on either side larger than what your chipboard is. So, which is why this piece is, I put the measurements because realistically, the album is set out this way. So which is why I have 8.5 by 6.5 and 10.5 by 8.5. But obviously added 2 inches to get the 10.5 from the 8.5 and added 2 inches to get the 8.5 from the 6.5. So this is how it's going to lay. So I can roughly see an eyeball. It doesn't have to be too precise, but here you would put a 1 inch spacer here, a 1 inch spacer at the top, and that will mean that you can just butt your chipboard up to that and, you know, apply it. So, you know, I don't have that. I'm actually going to put my score mat on there because when I press, I don't want to put the indent of the scoring ridges in there. So this is basically what it's going to look like. I almost covered my backside in the what's it called? Double-sided tape, the score tape. So what I have found is I didn't used to do this. I used to just do the perimeter, the perimeter, and then I used to do a couple of strips on the inside and just kind of fill in with glue. I've done my last couple like this, and I feel like because there's more surface area with the double-sided tape, with the score tape, that I just feel like I have less potential issues with my, you know, putting the cardstock on, but it's personal preference. I haven't done enough of the whole coverage to really kind of, you know, make you know, a firm statement on that, but that's just kind of my feeling. So I've got this roughly where I want it, and then I'm going to press down. I like to flip it over, give it another press. I'm looking for my bone folder, but I don't see it, which is weird. I'm gonna, oh my gosh, brayer works. I don't really have any glue, but I do want to make sure that every inch of that cardstock is secure secured down to the double-sided tape. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to want to do, which we always do when we're making albums, is we want to start training the paper to fold around each side. And what I like to do is just kind of massage it into place, and that way it kind of creases it on this side. I did see, and I do need my bone folder for this. So where the heck did my bone folder go? I know I was madly kind of trying to clean up my space before I started this video. That is very, very strange. Strange indeed. Ah, there it is. Got mixed up in some cardstock, not surprising there. So I'm taking my bone folder, and from the front, I am not going with my tip, just with the side, because I do not want my cardstock to rip, but I want to see it really contour the side of the chipboard. Because the chipboard is obviously a little bit thicker, you know, that way when we wrap it, it is going to really hug the chipboard and not be, you know, it's going to hug it. It's going to wrap it around really nice and cleanly. So just take the time, take your time. This is not a step to be rushed, because obviously at this point you really don't want your chipboard or your cardstock to rip, because that would mean having to start all over again. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to do the exact same thing with my other piece. So again, I've got my piece of cardstock laying down. I'm tearing off the pieces of adhesive backing. I use the width of my double-sided tape, the score tape, is 5/8. I know it comes in a bunch of different widths. I, in stock, have a 1/8, a quarter, 3/8, a half, and then 5/8. Up until recently, I really didn't see the need to bring in anything larger, but I think possibly for our next order, we probably are going to bring in something a little bit wider. So those of you who like to make albums will have an opportunity to purchase something a little wider. Okay, going back over with my brayer, making sure I've got all of that adhered. I've never used that brayer for like inks or paints, so I feel fairly confident that I'm not going to you know, transfer any inks to the front of my album or the back of my album, so I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over now that I have a pretty good guide, and I'm just going to again train my cardstock. Okay. And then you'll notice that for the spine piece, obviously the spine is a lot wider than the chipboard, and that is on purpose. So with the spine, I want it to leave, as a rule, there is a slightly larger, I think it's about 1.5 inches on either side, and there's 1 inch on the top and bottom. So this will give you enough of a flap so that when you're attaching the cover and the back, you've got lots of cardstock that is, you know, there to attach. My gosh, the words are not coming. So I'm going to do the same thing on this back. I just used 3 pieces of the 5x8 or the 5/8 score tape. So I'm going to do the same thing. If you wanted to, you could always draw pencil lines on here as well. Like if you just wanted to take your ruler, I was like, I had it here. So for like 1.5 inches would be roughly around here. And then the 1 inch, because on this, on the score pal, you have the markings on the left and the right as well. So you could easily just, you know, subtract 1 inch everywhere. Well, from the top and the bottom. And then 1.5 inches would be in from either side. So this way it gives you kind of a landing zone for your chipboard, right? So your chipboard, I want it to kind of be in this area-ish. So if you don't feel comfortable with the eyeball technique, then you can use that as well. If you don't have the spacers and you don't have any extra chipboard, you can certainly do that as a secondary option or a third option. Okay, so just run that over, and we're going to, oops, I want to train it first, at least to crease it. And the paper now has, well, it's not a conscious entity, so it doesn't have any idea what it's doing, but you are kind of getting it to go the way you want it to go. And you see, like the first pass, you won't actually be right next to the chipboard. Second or third pass, you get closer, which is why we do this. Okay, so we have got our chipboard pieces partially covered. So we're going to bring in one of the larger pieces again. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to apply some double-sided tape. I'm going to apply it. I apply it to the outside edge of my cardstock, and then the inside edge of the outside edge of the chipboard. And I'll show you that in a second. Let me just grab my score tape. So this is what I mean. I'm going to do the outside edge, even though we're going to cut some of that off. There's a little bit of wastage. If you don't want to do it, if you don't want to apply your score tape now, you don't have to. You can cut first and then apply it. But this is what I mean by applying the score tape first. I didn't mean to do the that side, but I like starting with the lengths, the long edge first, and then doing the short edges. Okay, and then I'm going to run the score tape this way. So now I'm on my chipboard, and you're going to do the exact same thing. Sorry, my neighbors are at it again, constructing, I don't know what. So you are going to do this same thing to both pieces. So just because I know I'm going to probably do that other piece off camera. And we are going to cut our edges. Sorry, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here. So the sides, you want to leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch from the corner of your chipboard. So if you're not sure what 1/8 of an inch is, usually that's about the width of a piece of chipboard, which I don't have handy right now. If you happen to have this Tim Holtz ruler, those dotted lines measure an 1/8 of an inch as well. So I could always line the corner up with the first dotted line and then just draw myself a bit of a pencil mark. And that way I know where to cut approximately. If you go too close, your chipboard may show. And I mean, if you're using a different colored cardstock, then you can always hopefully color that in with a marker. If it's black, a Sharpie works. I'm not too concerned, just because the color of my chipboard is fairly close to the Kraft cardstock that I'm using, but still I'm going to be a little bit cautious here. So, okay. So ultimately you want both of your larger pieces. So for the outside covers, you want them to look like this. So I'm going to start with one of the long edges, and I'm going to peel back my double-sided tape. You can also grab your liquid glue if you would like. And what I would do with the liquid glue is go right up against that piece of chipboard. Do a nice bead. You don't have to use a ton. Do a squiggly line, and then I just kind of fill it in with some more of my liquid glue. And then I come over, kind of pressing, which is why I also love using the score mat, is this cleans up so quickly, so easily. Nothing really sticks to it. I'm just going to use a piece of paper towel for right now because I'm going to be getting more goop on it. And then I'm laughing to myself because I always wondered why wipe? I usually use my fingers, to be quite honest. Those are the best tools you got. Carry them around with you everywhere you go. Okay. So with the liquid glue, again, I'm just going to come back in. When I do my little squiggly line up there, I'm actually on top of the double-sided tape. So it doesn't do anything except for gives you time to maneuver it if you wish. And I, again, recently started seeing people kind of fold the top like that. And I have found I get such a nice crisp edge that that is my method right now of kind of doing that. So anyways, just sharing. Sharon is Karen. And then for the two sides, the top and the bottom, I'm just going to come back, add a bit of score tape. I don't go right to the edge because the times that I have, I've noticed that it peeks out because there's not a lot of coverage over here. So, but not to worry because we were going to add some liquid glue as well. So we don't have to worry about it not adhering, and you can always add a touch of glue, of the liquid glue if you need to. Okay, so now we're ready for the tops and the bottom. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing basically. The one step that you do need to be mindful of is these corners. You just want to curve that in. Again, we're going to hug that. You can take your bone folder if you want to. Get that to hug the perimeter or the depth of the chipboard, if that makes sense. I'm going to give you a quick close-up, so hopefully you can see. This one looks really good. So you see that it kind of is wrapping all the way around. That's what you want. And that way you don't have corners that will stick out. They'll be nice and contour. They will be contouring the chipboard. Okay, perfect. So you come back with your liquid glue. All right, do the perimeter, squiggle down the middle, little dot for good luck, and then we fold. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. The first one was a hot mess, but so you'll see what I mean by those corners. So you have a really nice corner where it's gone flat a little bit here, following the contour of the chipboard. So that is what your corner should look like. We're going to do the exact same thing for the bottom piece. Tear our double-sided tape, get our liquid glue, well, that didn't, and I forgot to do one step. So now I'm going to get my fingers all gluey. Well, I'll get my bone folder gluey. So I push those two down and then come back with my liquid glue. Okay, and we fold. Perfect. Excellent. So that is your cover folded and covered. Looks spectacular. Oops, I got a little bit of glue there. Wipe off any excess glue that you do happen to see, and that way you don't get it all over the place. So I'm going to do the exact same thing to this one, and I will be right back. Okay, so we've got our two covers done, front and back. Those are good. We're good to go with that. Now is to do the spine, and the spine is done just a little bit differently, and even what I'm doing is a little bit different from the way that I was shown, and I can't even remember the tutorial that I watched. Excuse me. Is we're going to want to fold this over, but that ends up, and this was the original method, you end up with a lot of bulk on these corners, right? Now you have two pieces. When you add it onto your front and back covers, then it just adds up, and it gets exponentially larger in this area. So the one thing that I am going to do is, when I fold the top and the bottom up, I am going to take my bone folder and again kind of get this trained to go down, and we are going to be cutting along the bottom edge. I'm going to pick this up in just a second. I just want to get both sides done first, and then I can show you kind of a close-up of what I mean. So you can see here that we have how it's looking. I'm trying to get you to show this. So you see that it's not exactly flat. Hopefully you can see that. So you've got it's lower, and then it comes up a little bit, it's raised a bit, and then it goes back down again. And so right where where it goes down, so this is where it's going to cover our chipboard, and then I'm going to cut along here to remove some of the bulk. And normally, I mean, we do this a lot for, you know, when you're folding, because I don't want it to be super bulky. And that was the one thing, you know, it all gets covered in the end, and chances are person receiving it is probably not even going to notice, but I kind of notice, and I it's not my favorite. Let's just leave it at that. So you can certainly do this with just liquid glue, and I will be adding some liquid glue shortly. So I'm putting some of the double-sided tape on my chipboard. I'm going to put a little piece inside the score marks. I'm not going outside the score marks. I've left a little bit of a tab, if you will, on the right and left side. And I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue on those sides, as well as across the middle and across the double-sided tape, and of course right by the chipboard. So now I'm going to close that in. So I'm not doing it the method I used the last time. I'm going to use my score tool, my bone folder, to get that to wrap around really nicely, get that glue to adhere to the side, get that nice and wrapped. I've got a little bit of a piece on one side. Nope, it all looks good. I am going to trim off just a little bit more on this side because I see like it's coming up, just so that I have that laying flat there. That's all my chipboard. And I'm going to just do the same exact thing for the other side. So fold it over, right? We've got this part trained to fold over, but now we want it to kind of lay right next to the chipboard on this side. So just use your bone folder to get that done. Come back in with my scissors, and I'm just going to cut right at the bottom of that score. I guess it's a score mark, for lack of a better word. Okay, just trim that off. Okay, so apply my score tape to the top and the bottom. So top is on the chipboard, bottom is on the cardstock, right between those two score marks. Do not want to overlap the score marks. I suppose it's not the end of the world if you do, but I don't know what happens. So excuse me. All right, so right along the chipboard, we're going to make sure we get glue on those little tabs that we've created across and down the middle. Oh, I know I'm going to have some glue explosions now for sure. That was a lot of glue. That was a lot of glue. Okay, just making sure that that stays stuck, and flip that around so I can get the other side. Try to get it as close to, so you don't have any, like right now I cut it so that there was just enough to cover the chipboard. I don't have any laying on these flaps. And that's important because when we go to lay our front and back cover, we don't want anything. It's not going to, when we apply our front and back cover, we actually apply them to the top like this. So there's nothing that really is going to impede, but you don't want it, if it lays here, this part of the cardstock, so I realized I probably wasn't in frame just then. So if you have any of this part of the cardstock that kind of flows over, then it may impede kind of like how it bends, and it may start lifting. So you do want to make sure that if you do have a little bit of extra, that you get it trimmed. That's all I can think of as far as additional notes. So when we come to add our top, excuse me, not our top, our front and back cover, we are going to add them. So this is the top side. This is going to be the inside. This is the outside, I should say, not top side, outside. And what we are going to do is we are going to add some score tape. We don't want to go right to where our chipboard is, where we can see our chipboard, we want to leave, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch. So if you happen to have a piece of chipboard and like potentially a third hand, I just kind of eyeball it, really, because you don't want, and you don't want any glue there either, because, which is why score tape or double-sided tape is so good for this part of the project, is you don't want glue to get onto the inside part, because then it will affect how your book opens and closes and might start tearing. So I'm just going to add 2 pieces here. One on the far outside of the cardstock, one about 1/8 of an inch away from where you feel like your chipboard is. And that's also why we've, you know, kind of used our bone folder to, you know, really train that paper. We can get a good, clear idea of where it's going to lay. We are going to, oops, that's not ready to come off. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we peel that off. I'm just applying my liquid glue to the inside piece right here. If it'll come out, like at the end of my liquid glue, which is frightening. But, you know, it is what it is. Oh, come on. It's being away today. I know, I see glue comes out on the pin, so come on, you can do it. There we go. Oh. Okay, give me 1 sec. I'm afraid of squeezing too hard, but I made the mistake of, I didn't put the pin in a couple of days ago, and I feel like now I'm paying the consequences. And it's time to clean that tip. Oh, for sure. There we go. There we go. Sooner or later, it will bend to my will. All right. So now I'm going to basically lay this. I'm trying to think, because I don't really have enough space here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip this fold, the flap in. Just want to make sure that I've got it all nicely aligned here. I usually stand up, so I'm going to stand up and try not to yell into the microphone here. Okay, so there, perfect alignment. I've got it pressed right up to that side to where my spine is. I'm going to flip it over and just go over with my bone folder. There. Just like that. I've got a little piece, so I probably should have mitered that a little bit more. I just have a little piece here that is sticking up. You know what? Smaller scissors for a smaller job. Okay. All right. So we've got the one side down. Now we're going to do the other side. I'm looking at this side now, and I'm not wanting to run into the same issue, so I'm just going to miter these a little bit more. Doesn't take much, just a wee little bit. Take that off. Apply my double-sided tape again, and we're going to go far outside for first, and then on the inside we are staying about, you know, roughly anywhere between a 1/16 of an inch and an 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then we are going to apply our other cover like so. So this folds in just like that. I'm actually gonna have to take my score mat out if I want to press up a little bit to make sure that I've got it all flush on the top. So I'm gonna pull these 2 adhesive backings away. Hopefully my glue isn't quite as stubborn. There we go. It knows its place now. All right, so I've got it flush right pulled up into the corner. I can lay this in and press down. Now I'm going to come to the inside and just make sure I've got that all burnished down. So that is the cover. And yeah, so we are going to do, I'm going to stop it right here for now. I will have a second part, and I will get that second part out to you just as quickly as possible. The second part is going to cover the hinge mechanism that we're going to use on the inside. If I bring back my original template, it only has 3 pages. So we're going to do 3 signatures, and each signature has a flip out, right? And it's also going to have a pocket. Okay, so hinge and inside the signatures is going to be for part 2. Hopefully you have enjoyed part 1, which went through this super easy lay flat method to making an album. Hopefully you found it easy and you found it useful and helpful in some way, shape, or form. And if you have, I would really appreciate a big thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I read every single one of them and absolutely always answer everything. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We have a massive giveaway. Well, at least massive for me. It is a really big giveaway because we've reached 500 subscribers. And so you can find that video on my channel. So just if you type in giveaway, I'm sure it'll pop up. And we have until July 30th or 31st. The last day in July. So I think it's July 31st. The giveaway will be on August 1st. So if you haven't already entered, please make sure you enter that. I am super, super excited for that. And hit the bell if you want notifications as we come out with video tutorials just about every week, a few times a week, and would love to have you join us. So thank you so much for joining me today. I've had a fabulous time. Hopefully you have too, and you continue to have a fabulous day. Thanks again. Bye.